Hi there, I'm coverkillernation, and here are 5 albums recently released that you should check out. This week was a little bit strange. There wasn't too much that was released. I didn't have a lot of time, considering this past weekend was my birthday. It was pretty awesome. We had a kick-ass stream this past Sunday. But there are a couple that were released that I wanted to talk about. 5, in fact. So without further ado, here are 5 recently released albums that you should check out. And we're going to start it off today with 2 by Vale of Pnath. Now, if the name sounds a bit strange, it's very Lovecraftian. It's from H.P. Lovecraft. However, this is their second full-length release. These guys are a technical death metal band that are based out of Denver, Colorado. And this LP has 8 tracks. It doesn't even clock in at the 40-minute mark. It's in 38-minute range. This is, though, an album that definitely takes that technical death idea and gives it a little bit of polish. We're not talking the same elemental polish that you get from, say, an Obscura or the Faceless, but these guys are still learning and mastering their craft. I love the fact that on the very first track, Blacker Than, you get some riff patterns that maybe will remind you a little bit of some Rust in Peace era Megadeth, and then on A Nightmare Phantasm, one of the very first things that I thought of during a riff there was High Noon by Flotsam and Jetsam, only there's huge differences there, considering the F and J song is a little bit more alternative metal-y, as opposed to this, which is technical death metal destruction. Overall, this is a disc that is filled with these fantastic riffs. The gruff vocals do not distract, instead they only amplify the overall magnitude of what this album is attempting to accomplish. I think that this disc may be an unsung hero for a lot of people, for a lot of fans of this genre that maybe just didn't know that this was being released, or perhaps this band is not on their radar. So if you have the opportunity to check out 2 by Vale of Pnath, I highly recommend that you do it. And I also recommend specifically the very final track, Unburied, considering with its 7.5 minutes, it's easily the longest cut on this disc, and they're very good at writing longer material. They have a lot of skill whenever it comes to building and keeping atmosphere. So something to consider in the future, guys, if you happen to watch this. You guys are excellent at keeping pace going, and this is definitely a great final track, which is, of course, all important in leaving an impression with your listeners as they're about to depart your album. So check this one out, folks. It's always lovely to premiere your first album in front of a willing audience, but there's a group that is getting some fairly decent respect probably underneath your nose, and an album that's been released this past week that you should check out. The band's name is Astronoid, and the name of the album is Air. These guys are based out of Massachusetts, and they play a style that could be seen as maybe post-black metal or just post-metal in general, that also has some of the haunting resonances that you would see in bands, or hear in bands rather, such as Sigur Rós, either that or My Bloody Valentine. So it's sort of that combination of efforts that really create what is Astronoid's real atmosphere, and it is something that is a glorious sight to behold. Now think of yourself a couple of years ago whenever you first listened to Death Heaven's Sunbather. Think about how that album maybe changed your life for a little while, or how much you really enjoyed it. Now, take away some of those harsh vocals, make this a completely clean vocal affair, but still have some of that savage ripping that is accompanied by the beautiful tones of, whether it be soft vocals, either that, or just softer moments that is interlaced within the music. Something that just comes together and collaborates to create something that has this overall cohesiveness that is really cool. There's a lot of C's in that sentence. This is not a C album, though. This is definitely an A+, one that you should certainly scope out if you happen to be a fan of Death Heaven, if you happen to be a fan of Model in the Well, if you happen to be a fan of post-black metal, if you like Fen, you guys will probably like this group. Man, this was a complete surprise. This honestly was a gamble. I saw that this group was coming out and was getting a little bit of support and wanted to know what all the hype was about. I am damn proud and damn happy that I scoped this out, so I passed this gift along to you guys. Check out the title track, check out also Up and Atom, but Trail of Sulphur, the very final cut on this album. Once again, I'm noticing a theme already of final songs being really strong in this cycle, at least so far. Trail of Sulphur is just a really magnificent track. Definitely ends a fantastic album that I think is going to have the unfortunate legend of being underrated and underappreciated. but if you guys check this out, and if you spread the word about these guys, maybe I'll be wrong. So check it out. Let's not move very far geographically. Let's stay within Massachusetts, this time to Boston, with Revival by Gozu. This is their third full-length release. They are a stoner rock or stoner metal band, whatever you really want to call it. This has Doomed and Stone written all over it. If you guys know the Facebook group, they're pretty awesome. But this is an 8-track affair that eclipses the 40-minute mark, just barely, about 41 minutes in total length. And you gotta love the fact that bands like this are just able to jam out, fuzz things out, and just really craft music that's pleasing on the ears. It really showcases just how really sort of dense this style of music can really be, while also still just being very, very good. It's a difficult album to turn off. And once again, for the third straight album, we have ourselves a fantastic final track, the 8th cut on this album, Tin Chicken, which, gotta love the name. There are other great names which we'll get to. However, I love the fact that this sounds just a little bit different within its first 4 minutes, and then really busts out into a very repetitive, fuzzy riff that just kind of swirls around you and just gives you sort of goosebumps out as you're listening to it. It's definitely music that gives you that high that perhaps you seek, or perhaps that high that you hope to accompany another high. Gozu with Revival doing great work in order to really handshake with that. I told you there was other terrific song titles on here, including By Menon. That's right, By Menon. Do you remember that old jingle? It's a song title on here. It's pretty good. But also Lorenzo Lamas, if I could speak, I'd be dangerous, is a 7.5-minute sprawling cut that actually ends what would be technically side A, as it's track 4. And man, is it another killer. These guys are really, really good. And I highly recommend that you guys check this out, whether you like the stoner persuasion of music, or if you're just looking for a band that has some really good qualities that remind you maybe of a little bit of Clutch, a little bit of The Sword, a little bit of maybe a band such as Elder even. There's a lot of great names that you could really use to describe these guys. Again, the Doomed and Stoned group over on Facebook would probably be better off doing that. Brandy Schwab, if you're watching this band's for you. Let's move forward. Our 4th entry today is a massive one. So far we've talked about albums within the 30 to 50 minute range. How about one that's 2 hours long? This is a digital release. The album is entitled The Roads Leading North. The band is SHROUD, or LASCAILLES SHROUD, whichever way that you wish to pronounce this band. And they specialize in digital releases. They are a technical death metal band that has progressive sides. In fact, that progressive side really shines forth a lot. They have concepts that are really based off of space opera, and their name actually comes from a book series, which is pretty neat. Now, whenever it comes to the music itself, it is very dense, very layered. At times, it can seem a little bit, a little shifty, and they specialize in longer cuts. They're really aiming to almost craft the whole audio novel concept, or at least try to provide the soundtrack alongside of the storyline, which is something that they're able to accomplish on this album, based off of just their pacing, their tone, and the way in which it's all presented. This is an album, though, that just in total 100% disclosure can be a little bit overwhelming. It's kind of like a novel that you don't want to soak this in all at once. It can feel a little bit overbearing, either that or that there's just way too much to sort of divulge. So it's an album that is going to require multiple listens, perhaps, for you to kind of grasp what all is going on and get the full experience that the band is intending you to really try to capture and to get. And this is easily seen with track number 11, where we're already more than halfway through this disc, and you're hit with the 25-minute long track, When Sleep Takes Us, which is it's an amazing track. It's one that has so many different multiple sides that showcase the diversity of this group. It's one that features multiple cuts, which shows that this has multiple parts within it, and that this is just a group and an album that has a ton of working parts and a ton of really subdivisions among it, almost like chapters of a novel, which makes perfect sense. If you're looking for something that is a challenging listen, if you're looking for something that has creativity abound, perhaps one that speaks to you similar to the Slice the Cake album from earlier this year, as far whenever it comes to real depth and density, length, and storytelling, then this is the album for you. The Neon City Part 1 Dreams is a fantastic track. Again, When Sleep Takes Us, for 25 minutes, they really filled the time very, very well. Also really enjoy The Roads Leading North, which is the self-titled track. And the disappearance of Elizabeth North provides a fitting finale. Once again, we're 4 for 4 whenever it comes to top-notch finales by bands. So this is one that's going to be a challenging listen, but it's one that I also encourage you take. This is a ride that certainly does offer a lot of promise. I like what this band does and think that they have a bright future. Our journey today is nearly complete, but we're going to end with a rock band, not a metal band. Oh no! Yeah, it's a bit of a thin week, but also, I always like to show that rock isn't dead, considering 2 years ago Gene Simmons made the statement that he thinks that it is. But Rival Sons with Hollow Bones, this is their 5th full-length release. They've been busy during the 2010s, and we also have to understand it's 2016, we're 6 years in. But these guys made a big splash with Pressure in Time back in 2011. And they've been making great music ever since. This is their first album in 2 years since the Grey Western Valkyrie, which was released in 2014. And I like the fact that this blues rock sound takes a little bit of a cue from some indie rock bands that you hear. Maybe you hear a little bit of the thump of the Black Keys in here, but then also a lot of comparison points can be led to either bands such as the Black Crowes, maybe some of the more aggressive Led Zeppelin work, until you get into some of the lengthier pieces, such as the Hollow Bones Cycle, first track being nearly 3 minutes in length, and track number 8, which is Hollow Bones Part 2, nearly 7 minutes in length, to lead to a 10-minute full cycle. This is a band that's not afraid to go into longer territory, with previous albums sporting tracks of 6 and 8 minutes in length by themselves, and this is a part of the band that really shines forth, and I think something that's missing from a lot of rock music these days. Sometimes you really have to be an intrepid sonic explorer in order to really captivate an audience. Yes, we are in a society that loves 3-minute tracks, not 10-minute ones, at least by proxy, but those are usually the cuts that have a lot of musical growth and showcase a lot of the cooler or neater elements of a band's sound. Really like what this 9-track affair is able to accomplish. It's one that's very direct, but it also is able to expand upon itself. It doesn't feel like it is very gray. It's instead one that has a lot of kinesis to it, which it makes it a very enjoyable listen, and it's a quick listen as well, so it's not one that takes too much of your time. And that kind of keeps these guys just continuing to pump out material and just continuing to tour the material and give it to the people. This is definitely one that I would check out. And All That I Want, which is the very final cut on this album, it's sort of been the theme of this week. I don't know if it really fits the majesty of the previous 4 that we spoke about, but it's an acoustic number. It's very intimate, so perhaps in its own way, it does have that same power and prowess. Check it out, see what you think. That being said, there you have it. 5 albums that were recently released that you should certainly check out. And as a sad note, as I was recording this video, we learned, of course, of the death of Chris Warren from the DX band, who did the Generation X theme song, as well as the first Triple H theme while he was in DX for the WWE, which is really sad, considering whenever I was a young whippersnapper, I really enjoyed those 2 theme songs, and remember him playing the Star Spangled Banner at, I believe, WrestleMania 14, and it was seen and perceived as less than, admirable. But really liked his work with those couple of tracks. Definitely iconic whenever it comes to standing out in my mind. Want to extend our condolences to family and friends of Chris. But are there any other albums that were released this past weekend that you feel that were left out? Please leave them in the comments below. What are some albums coming this week that you are excited about? That is the week of the 17th, 18th, and 19th. Let me know in the comments below. My name is coverkillernation, and I'll talk to you guys next time whenever we discuss 5 more albums that were recently released that you should check out. Take care.